What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports, and you're watching our SEC football channel.
Your quarterback play for the last 7, 8 to 10 years has been pretty exceptional most of the time. Chad Kelly, the guy that really stands out for me, but certainly a lot of good players. Shea Patterson, of course, most recently before Jordan Ta'amu, who probably wasn't given the opportunity to be on a national stage as much because of the postseason ban and the lack of wins. But man, if you stack up his numbers against some of the better quarterbacks in the nation, he did fairly well, running and passing more than 4,000 yards and 25 touchdowns. I'm going to let you take it from here, whether you want to talk Ta'amu's contribution and what he delivered, and then obviously Matt Corral seems to be the guy in play in 2019.
Yeah. I mean, and you made a great point there saying that Jordan Ta'amu didn't really get the chance to be on the national stage as much because, like you said, all the bowl bans, people weren't interested in seeing Ole Miss in big primetime games, and they really didn't get any big primetime games because no postseason implications. So, to a lot of people, they were just, dead in the water, but he really did have an exceptional year. And the last, 6 games of the year before when he came in and replaced Shea Patterson, he really started to come into his own. And then his senior season here was absolutely fantastic. And he's landing. I think he's kind of bouncing around right now. Working at some training camps, got a couple of invites. Obviously wasn't drafted, but yeah, I mean, he's a good quarterback with a strong arm. He had a great pro day a month or so ago, and I think he's going to have a chance to land on an NFL roster and hopefully one day compete for a starting job. So yeah, I mean, it was fantastic. Been fought his way all the way up the JUCO ranks after coming over from Hawaii, and then eventually made it up. Played with the big dogs in the SEC West, and hopefully it'll keep going up from there for him.
So Matt Corral's the next in line, and he comes in with a pretty high rating. The scouts love him. The coaches love him across the board. He could have gone just about anywhere as a top 5 pro-style quarterback, but he lands in Oxford, and you got to be happy you've got him.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think he looks a lot like Shea Patterson did as a quarterback. But obviously, Shea Patterson and Jordan Ta'amu had pretty similar skill sets in the fact that both had strong arms and both can move well. And so I think Matt Corral has had good time under Jordan Ta'amu he was learning Phil Longo's playbook. Obviously now he's got a different offensive coordinator. So, he's still, I guess, learning that new playbook right now, but he really had time to develop that skill set. And, I think with more of a run-heavy offense like the Rebels are going to have this year, I think that'll give Matt Corral more time to not necessarily be rushed into his position. I think that was a big thing that really hurt Shea Patterson, was that he kind of felt like he had to do it all because the Rebels didn't have a very strong run game, and they really relied heavily on the pass. And I think Matt Corral having more balance in that offense will make it to where, when he does throw the ball, it'll be more productive. He won't be, trying to make a big play every time he touches the ball. So, yeah, we're very excited for him. He's got all the talent in the world, and, now he's just got to go use it.
And obviously he's a question mark. He has yet to prove it at this level. Right. What's going to help him, you would think, is being able to get into 4 games last year. The Rebels were able to take advantage of that new redshirt rule, get him into 4 games. He threw a couple touchdown passes, obviously was involved in that one touchdown that was called back that led to a big brawl at the Egg Bowl. Yeah. But he threw 22 passes, so he's gotten his feet wet. Mm-hmm. And Jake, we look at the rest of the guys in these roster, and it looks like Ole Miss has set itself up for quite a quarterback battle going forward. Maybe not necessarily this year, but a lot of options here with a lot of talented guys. John Reese Plumlee was a guy that was sought after by all sorts of schools across the country. He's a top 13 dual threat quarterback. Grant Tisdale, the same situation out of Texas, where it's not just one guy and then, oh boy, we have a huge drop off in talent if Corral gets hurt.
Right.
Definitely you want the number 1 guy to stay in there, but at the same time, a lot of talent in camp.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that, worst case scenario, Matt Corral goes down at some point, he's going to have good guys behind him who kind of match his skill set in a similar way, whether or not they're as talented as him. He's got 3 guys behind it. Well, with the exception of Kincaid Dent, who's more of a pro style guy, John Reese Plumlee and Grant Tisdale are both more dual threat quarterbacks who I think will benefit greatly from being under him. And obviously just learning the college game from a dual threat quarterback's perspective. And so, God forbid Matt Corral goes down. I still think that, I still think he's, the offense isn't going to have to change if something like that were to happen. So, I think they would be all right if the worst happened.
So, Jake, you bring up something that I think is really key here, in addition to Corral living up to his billing right out of the gate, and that skill set fit with the offense. So Rich Rod comes in, and he's known across the board for developing offenses and scoring big points, productive offenses, going back to his days at West Virginia when he really put that on the map. But it was the core of the offense was built around the quarterback running the football more than being a passing quarterback. Then he goes to Michigan, and he takes all this pro-style skill set and roster around him, and it was a tough fit. And then out of it came Denard Robinson, and that was Rich Rod's guy and his recruit. And then he goes to Arizona. He's got Khalil Tate, one of the more dynamic guys on his feet in the nation.
Yeah.
These aren't necessarily the guys, especially Matt Corral, that fit that style of offense. So you would think that Rich Rod needs to make an adjustment to his approach.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that they addressed pretty early on because, what you just said right there, a lot of people were bringing that up when Ole Miss, announced that he was one of the front runner candidates to be the OC, and then when he got the job. But one of the things that they made sure to address early on was that there's going to be a lot more of a focus on the run game in this offense. Ole Miss has had very solid offensive lines the last couple of years. And then last year, Scotty Phillips, if he didn't get hurt at the very end of the season, was going to be 1,000-yard rusher. And then, we're keeping our fingers crossed that 5-star running back Jerrion Ely will be coming to campus in the fall and not going to play in the MLB. But, if Scotty Phillips and Jerrion Ely are in the backfield for him next year, that's going to give Rich Rod a lot of talent that he just can't ignore that. I mean, he could try and be more of a spread, throwing the ball offense, but he really just can't ignore that talent he's got in the backfield. And it sounds like they're going to utilize it very well. And bring a better balance to the offense than we've seen in the last few years from Ole Miss.
Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, breaking down the game we love, even in May. Best discussion, debate, and analysis you're going to find anywhere with the very best in bloggers, broadcasters, and writers as we talk up Ole Miss. And while there was not a position group in the country that could match Clemson's defensive front, and we saw that at the NFL draft, and even the guys they leave behind, people aren't tuning into the NFL draft to watch defensive linemen come off the ball and hit dummies and blocking sleds. We tune in to watch guys run fast and spin around and catch footballs. And if there was a group that showed out, it was Brown and Metcalf and Lodge at the NFL Combine. Those guys are gone. And you've got some talent left over, but obviously the guys that made all the plays last year, they're pretty much gone, aside from Elijah Moore, who as a freshman had a nice season. So set us up at wide receiver, Jake.
Yeah, well, so, like you said, A.J. Brown, DK Metcalf, DeMarcus Lodge, Dawson Knox, that was the big four. That was what the offense, that was what it ran through for the last couple of years. And obviously that's a couple of very big shoes to fill. But returning this year, Elijah Moore, he's kind of the centerpiece of this whole thing in my mind. He last year as a freshman, he played. He's a smaller guy, only about 5'8", but he's got a lot of speed. They had him in the slot a lot last year, and he was able to rack up a few hundred yards and get some good experience playing, SEC ball, to where this fall when he's called on for more plays, hopefully it won't be too much of a workload for him, I guess. But he's the centerpiece. Braylon Sanders is another guy that had a chance to play last year due to some injuries. And he performed very well when he had the chance to. And then Miles Battle is another big one. He was a big 4-star recruit coming out of high school. Came in last year, didn't really see any significant action, but really bulked up. Now he really looks like an SEC wide receiver. They're going to be calling on him a lot on the edge because, like I said, Elijah Moore is more of a slot guy. Braylon Sanders is kind of a hybrid, but tended to play more on the outside. But Miles Battle, he is straight up. I mean, he's obviously not the muscle, the human muscle that DK Metcalf was, but he's got that kind of a body. He wants to go up and get the football. He wants to run straight, and he wants to make big plays. And then after that, Dontario Drummond, he's a guy who came in. He got a lot of action during spring practice. They like him a lot. I think they're expecting him to make some big plays. He looks like he's going to be more of an outside wide receiver with Miles Battle there. And then the Rebs signed Dennis Jackson, Jonathan Mingo, two big 4-star guys from Mississippi. So, the Rebels did a very good job, first year off where they didn't have scholarship reductions hanging over their head. So they were able to get a full recruiting class this year. They signed 31 guys. And so they brought in a few good receivers. They also returned a few good ones. So, Matt Corral's got the weapons at his disposal with running backs and wide receivers to have another very good, productive offense with Rich Rodriguez.
Yeah, when you look at Moore and Sanders' numbers, most of them came against the lesser opponents, although Moore had a huge day against South Carolina, 11 catches for $129, and down near the end of the season against the likes of Texas A&M and Vandy in the SEC, he started to become more of a factor in the offense. And Jackson and Mingo, got to be excited about those two guys, both ranked in the top 32 in the nation, according to 247's composite.
Thank you for watching this video. If you're an SEC football fan, please subscribe to the channel. Leave us your thoughts down in the comments below. And for the latest in SEC football, keep it right here.